I'm Miranda Bolden. I chose to build my company Logicor in one of the world's leading science and technology business centers right here in Huntsville, Alabama. Successful entrepreneurs and innovators excel here, and now you get to meet them. Hear the stories that lead to their success and the secrets that will help you thrive right here on The Miranda Show. Welcome to The Miranda Show. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm honored tonight to present to you our guest for today, Mayor of Madison, Mr. Paul Finley. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Tonight, we'll be discussing Paul's leadership journey and hopefully learning some things about how he's successful as a leader and shedding light on how our college students can learn to be that successful leader. So, Paul, you ready?
I am ready.
All right, we'll get started. So, Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Well, I traveled around a lot. My dad was in sales, so I was born in Kentucky, went to Wisconsin, Chicago, St. Louis, and then back to Kentucky for high school, and then I went to college at Murray State. And then moved down here in 1988, and then to Madison in 1995.
All right, fantastic. So what did your father do?
My dad was a salesman, and one of the things about it is I can't spell because he sold textbooks to our school district, and he didn't know that his son knew where the teacher's editions were. So every Monday I'd go find it, copy it down, and then on Friday I was smart enough to take the test. So spell check's great for me. But but he was a salesman, and he was his whole life. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So I understand that you graduated from Murray State University. So tell me about what you studied there.
They did. I was a marketing major in Murray State. They made me leave. They said, you have enough credits, you got to go. But one of the things about it is I went as an accounting major, and I did that because while I had a business class in high school, my mind told me, well, accountants make a bunch of money, so go be an accountant. And after Accountant 102, I said, maybe I make a lot of money, but that's absolutely not what I want to do every day. And so I had some counselors that guided me towards marketing, and again, having a dad with a sales background, it just fit my personality, and that's initially what I transitioned into once I got out of school.
Fantastic, yeah. Fantastic. So I understand you're a business owner. You have been a business owner. Tell us a little bit about that and how you got started in that.
Well, I've always been someone who's helping someone else, and so in the sales force, and I would do sales, and then you get into marketing. In 2004, I was working for a company in Research Park, but what I recognized is there were so many entrepreneurs that had great ideas, but no understanding of how to message those ideas, and then needed someone who could take that responsibility and that role from them. An entrepreneur starts off and they're doing everything. Eventually they have to hand some stuff off, and so I recognized that need. I started a company called Fins Marketing, just to play off my last name, but I didn't jump out there quickly. I secured enough business to know that I was going to be okay from a consulting standpoint, and then just kind of did it on a job-by-job basis up until the time I was mayor.
Okay. So when you talk about a job by job, tell me about the funding. Most entrepreneurs have a hard time securing that funding very early on. What was your approach to doing that, and did you have any help?
Well, I think my basic approach was it was just me for the most part. I mean, I think, and I know there's a lot of folks, so I was able to kind of control the number of hours that I had, the projects that I was working on. Then you start recognizing about what you need to subcontract out. So if I was helping, in that time it was the late 2000s. So it was, websites were becoming really big. Obviously the need for any type of project management. And so I could secure the job, which I was good at, define what the roles and responsibilities were, and then transition some of that out to others. And so I had a little bit more control. Okay. Had I not become mayor in 2008, I would have had to make a decision to probably go get funding because there was enough business out there to take it to the next level. Okay. Obviously, there was a different path that we took and won that, and then turned into the mayor's role.
Talk to me a little bit about how your marketing played in helping you to be a successful entrepreneur.
Well, I think one of the best things that the marketing end gave me, I've always been a salesperson. I've always felt the ability to sell whatever I have, whatever product I have. Where I think I really became successful is when I understood that listening was the criticality to being successful. And so having a marketing major and then being able to listen to where the problems were, to where the areas of concern were, to what that person was trying to accomplish, and then putting together a game plan to go make that happen. And so the marketing end then was just, hey, you need to get your message out. What avenue do we want to go after? What channel do we need to do? And so, again, there's a really smart people in the Huntsville, Madison County area that a lot of times their only focus is what they've developed. You know, I helped a gentleman with a high-speed camera, incredible camera, 500 frames a second, no idea where to take it. And so being able to mesh what he did really well with what I felt like needed to occur worked well for that company.
Very good. Yeah. Great skill set. So in 1995, you moved to Madison, Alabama,
Yeah.
a growing city. What initially attracted you to Alabama?
Well, Alabama was jobs. Madison, this is going to surprise the fire out of you, it was schools. You know, at that time,
Fantastic.
had two boys, knew it was time to get, you know, they're school age or getting ready to be school age. You know, and when I say I lived in Chicago and I lived in St. Louis, I didn't. I lived in the suburbs. I lived in Arlington Heights and Baldwin. And so we had, as with any family, I was confident in going into the suburbs of Huntsville, and it's okay for us to say that. That's what Madison is. And in turn, you know, go to those school systems. It was also quality of life. You know, they had great parks, very close to the jobs that I was taking care of. And so all of those facets that I think now the people continue to come to Madison for are just also a big part of why I moved there.
Great. So you decided to get into politics a little bit later.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your campaign and kind of what spurred you to go into politics, one, and talk to us a little bit about your marketing strategy and just how you ran that successful campaign.
Well, I started in 2002 when I first understood that there even was a city council, because until then I was just living life like everyone else here, but I wanted to accomplish something. We did a community service project out at Palmer Park, and I needed to work in conjunction with the city. So that's the first time I recognized how a city works. We did that project successfully. We handed back a $270,000 project, and the city only paid $80,000. From that point, I kept track of what was happening in our city and recognized that in 2007, if we didn't change, we weren't, in my opinion, going to be successful. Now, I think one of the successes I had was going and interviewing every person who had ever run for a political office and obtaining the information of the good, the bad, and oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. And because of that, we put together a really good plan. And so then I had a family who was all in, and we put together that team and just started day by day, week by week. And the one thing I promised myself is I may get beat, but I will not get outworked. And Mayor Kirkendall, I'll tell you at the time, he's a hard worker, and yet in the end, we had 53% of the vote, and I'm really proud of the fact that our diverse team came together with a concise message that we were able to sell, and then it's like the dog that caught the car, now what you going to do? And I think we did really good things.
All right, fantastic. Well, we're going to take a commercial break. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Regions Bank. Thank you so much, and we'll be right back to join you after the break.
You probably don't spend a lot of time thinking about banking. You're probably more focused on living for today and planning for tomorrow. That's why Regions puts you first. We know there's more to you than your checking account. You're dreaming about a vacation home, or season tickets for your team, or finally taking those paddleboarding lessons. With our people, our tech, and our tools, we make your life easier because we get it. Some things are bigger than banking.
Welcome back to the Miranda Show. Today we have our guest, Mayor Paul Finley, and we'll be continuing our conversation on how he ran a successful campaign. So Paul, let's talk about that. Tell us about your campaign and how you were successful in running that.
Well, I think there's two campaigns. You know, in 2008, it was simply grassroots, just having to build name recognition. And what I'm really proud of is everything in sales moves a step at a time. And we understood that. So, the very first thing is they needed to know I was running. And so we spent $16,000 that we didn't have on billboards. Next, it was, what do you stand for? And so it was the 5 bullet points of what we were truly going to, roads and schools and the things that are critical. And then once you got to that point, you have to ask everybody for their vote. And we just knocked doors every day, every weekend until we got to the election, and we won. Coming into 2016, it was really different. I had the name recognition because we had done what we said we were going to do. I think people believed in us, and we got in late. But what had changed so dramatically was the internet and social media. We didn't use that. We had a great website in 2008, but that wasn't used that much at that time. What we had in 2016 was something that was really special, and that was the ability to message through video and use social media to be able to do that, whether it was Facebook, whether it was our website. And so I think we transitioned into that well, having been a marketing guy and understood so much of that. And even today, you know, that's one of the things we talk about with folks on the website. You know, show if you want to know how to do, I want to change something out of my dishwasher. What do? You go to YouTube and try to figure out how to do that. So video and social media are so critical right now, and that's one of the big changes we made in the 2016 campaign.
Okay. Let me ask you a little bit about social media. So as a leader, are you constantly yourself learning social media and all the new tools out there as well?
Not as well as my communication specialist wishes I would, but one thing, you know, going in, what also changed, we sold our city council in 2016. Well, it's 2008, we needed an economic development specialist, someone who can help us generate sales tax in the city of Madison. So council helped us fund that. We put that person in place, and we were successful in generating more revenue. 2016, knowing the criticality of messaging, we hired a communication specialist. Again, council has to support you on doing that. They did. And so we now have someone who really understands that and simply can say, hey, I tell them what I'd like to accomplish. They in turn tell me the best way to do it, who we need to get involved, the B-roll and video that goes with it. And in turn, then we get that out. And we use it a lot in Madison right now, just to be able to talk to folks and let them know what's going on.
Great. Definitely a necessity in business today.
Absolutely.
So talk about Madison. So Madison is booming right now, and we're all very excited. We see all the construction that's happening. Tell us kind of what you see for Madison and what's going on there.
Well, I'm going to start by saying Madison is booming because Madison County and this whole area is booming. And we fully recognize that. We just got back from DC where 200 people from this area went up and messaged as one. So we recognize that in Madison. We're so happy to be partners. But then they moved to Madison because we're close to their job. We've got an incredible quality of life, and our school system is just second to none. And so we are booming, and we're booming in a couple different areas. Our school system is just overflowing with folks. We added almost 600 kids this year alone. I mean, that's as big as, well,
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
Like I had anything to do with it, but but I will say that, you know, that's as much as a 5A high school, and we did that all in 1 year. So we're working as a mayor and city council with our school board and our superintendent. We are going to have a property tax referendum in the city of Madison. Our city's really smart. That's why they've put their kids there in a lot of instances. But they need data to understand, is it worth my investment to put more money into my property tax? And I think they're going to say yes, but we don't know that. They'll have a chance to vote in September. So our schools are great. Our roads will continue. You know, I've always heard Mayor Battle said he ran in 1984. Roads were critical. 2008 they were critical. 16 they'll be critical. So we're constantly working to make sure that we improve the infrastructure to get people to and from where they want to be. We need to keep them safe. And so I think we've done some really good things in the city of Madison for community policing, from a fire standpoint. And then lastly, it's about generating revenue, because as a mayor and council, you have to have sales tax dollars. That's what funds your ability to take care of the parks and the greenways. So all of those things right now we seem to be doing really well, and I think that's because we've worked together as a team. Nobody really cares how it gets done. We just want it to get done.
Fantastic. And I think the city is on board with that. So congratulations there.
Thank you.
So you and your team successfully secured $100 million in funding for road projects. Talk to me about that, how you accomplished that great effort and your team accomplishing that.
Well, and the team goes back to basically 2008. I was blessed when Mayor Battle won. Chairman Gillespie was in the office at that time as a county commission chairman. Now Dale Strong's in there. They both kind of do the same role, but in 2008, the three of us came together. What had been happening is Huntsville would go down and say, we need this money for roads. Madison County would say they need this money, and Madison would say this. It's kind of like I have three boys right now. If they say I want to go to McDonald's, Burger King, and somebody else wants Taco Bell, it's like, I don't know which one, maybe we just won't go out. And I think that the state was using that against us. So the three of us sat down with the general, we defined our major road projects, and then as a persistent child, we kept going down to Montgomery or over to DC until we secured the money for Old Madison Pike Bridge, for 565 and County Line, for Winchester Road. for Zert Road, which we're still working on that, but that's another story.
It's a work in progress. Yes.
But all of those things came because we spoke with one voice often and helped people make good decisions where they could give us that money. And so we're doing that again, trying to secure additional road money. We just had that success with 565 and the 6-laning there. And we'll continue to work together because one message and one voice works really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love that leadership style. Talk to us about the new baseball team.
Yeah.
There's a lot of excitement in the air about the baseball team. Tell us about the Trash Pandas
Well,
and how you came up with that. How we came up with that name.
Oh, I can promise you, I did not come up with that name. But I give the baseball owner an enormous amount of credit. When we knew we were going to be partners, and he had double knee replacement, and so I went up to Boston, and we sat down and worked out our game plan on how we were going to be successful. And one of the key pieces was naming that team. And he said, I'm going to invest, and he invested about $30,000 and hired a specialist, a team that's all they do, to help define what's the name going to be. And the first thing they did is they came in and did focus groups. They talked to Madison residents, Madison County residents, Huntsville residents, and what they heard is we're very entrepreneurial, we're hardworking, we're problem solvers, we consider ourselves really smart. But then they asked the community to give them names. They did. They chose 10, one of which was a trash panda. Now, when I heard trash going along with anything that we had,
Yeah, that's kind of
I mean, there isn't a person out there that didn't go, what are you all thinking? But what they told us, and they told us at the very beginning, your community is going to think the answer is missiles or rockets because they're smart, but they're not. That doesn't sell. What sells is something in minor league baseball that's fun, that people can get behind, and having a great logo. So the community ended up choosing the Trash Pandas and Rocket City. And so in turn, it has transpired into the last 4 months, the Rocket City Trash Pandas have sold the most merchandise in minor league baseball.
Oh, wow.
And so that's, yeah, well, thank you.
That's definitely an accomplishment.
So working with professionals, and I think that's one of the things that we've learned, and I give him a lot of credit for, is when it's not in your wheelhouse, hire somebody whose wheelhouse it's in,
Yes.
and that's going to help you so much more.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you're an excellent businessman. How do you marry that up with being an entrepreneur? Sounds like a lot of that kind of coincides together very well.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess one of the things I recognized early on, well, I wasn't very good at listening when I first, because I felt like I needed to sell everybody on what my idea was. What I've done in between being in mayor and now, I started doing professional development on understanding personalities and personality assessment and team building. And so the best thing I think that as an entrepreneur I've done is I listen. I then, in turn, understand that not everybody hears it the same way that I do, so I get a diverse group of people that kind of goes back to the focus group that can take that and say, well, how would, if Miranda's trying to accomplish this show, how's the best way to get it out? And you hear so many different viewpoints on how people want to do that. I think I've been really good at taking all of that, putting it into one package, and as a leader, defining where we're headed. And then you, in turn, find the best possible people you can to help you with that. And we've done that really well in our city, working with our city council. You know, we hired a new police chief, a new fire chief, a communication specialist, and a new city attorney. That's transformed the city. And it's so many of those folks that when, you know, good things are happening in Madison and I'm the one who gets to stand up there and cut a ribbon, they're the ones that are, in many instances, helping to make that happen. And so I think entrepreneurship is the same way. You find problems, you in turn figure out a way to put the solution in place, and then after that you find the best team that you can, and then you got to get it done.
Then you have to get it done.
And if you don't, then they're not going to hire you the next time.
Absolutely.
Or elect you the next time.
Well, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back in a few moments with Mayor Paul Finley.
You probably don't spend a lot of time thinking about banking. You're probably more focused on living for today and planning for tomorrow. That's why Regions puts you first. We know there's more to you than your checking account. You're dreaming about a vacation home, or season tickets for your team, or finally taking those paddleboarding lessons. With our people, our tech, and our tools, we make your life easier because we get it. Some things are bigger than banking. Welcome back to the Miranda Show. Joining us today is Mayor Paul Finley, and we will continue our discussions.
So Paul, welcome back.
It's good to be here.
So
congratulations on all this, by the way.
Well,
this
thank
is
you
fabulous.
very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love.
Well,
absolutely. So talk to me about your 3 sons. So I understand you're a dad, and I'm sure that's difficult with the leading your business and growing a small community as well. Talk to me about your sons and leadership for your boys.
yeah, I don't know how much time we have because I could go on for a long time. You know, there is no question my sons are the proudest thing that I have 3 of them right now. The oldest one is 26, Tyler.
Right.
Went to Auburn, graduated, came back to UAH, went to grad school there, worked on the Sally Ride EarthCam project, which is a camera that's up on the space station, which is really cool because Dad has a picture of Madison, Alabama from space in his office.
Awesome.
And then he in turn transitioned that into working for Teledyne, working now on the console for the space station. So really proud of him. He did, you know, we talk about people will move here, get a job here, and then they'll figure out where they want to live. He now lives in 5 Points because it's much cooler there than it is in Madison. But I'm so proud he bought a house, and he is just a fine young man, he's so smart. My middle son, Tanner, is 23. He just finished his career at University of Alabama Huntsville playing basketball for Lenny Acuff, who, by the way, one of the best men I've ever been around, and put my child with some of the best kids that he ever could have been around. There's no secret. I live vicariously in Tanner's body. I can dunk in it, and he just had such a successful career there. He'll now transition into one of 2 things. He'll continue playing basketball someplace, or he will go into the business world. He was a business major. He graduated in December, had to keep taking classes to play basketball, but he's going to transition into that. And then my youngest son, Kyle, is just finished his 2nd year at University of Alabama Birmingham. He's a nursing major. He's already in the nursing school, will go next year. One of the most compassionate young men I've ever been around. Had to overcome a pretty serious surgery, and I'm just so proud of all that he's done. I learn compassion from him every day, but all 3 of those young men are just what you as a dad would hope that they would be. They're not perfect. They know their dad isn't either, but we have a relationship where we can talk and again share, and it's just neat to see them transition now into their next stages of life.
Absolutely. So a lot of our entrepreneurs may be younger women and people with families, single moms and that kind of thing. Talk to us about some of the challenges that you may have faced as a father when they were younger.
Well, I think one of the challenges I had was the time. So when I was mayor the first time, you know, I recognized how much time it was taking when the youngest was in 6th grade and they told me that he was going to be in the Seussical, and then they said he's Horton, and I said, well, that's cool, you know, and about a week beforehand I realized Horton's the main character. And when I didn't know that, I recognized how much time it was taking. Now tie that together with my dad, great dad, but he had a heart attack and died at 53.
Oh no.
And so recognizing I was getting close to 53 and sometimes not spending as much time as I wanted to, I chose not to run again in 2012 because each of them was in a different stage that I just didn't want to miss. I think I could have balanced it, but I didn't have to because I could do the entrepreneurial side of things and really enjoyed it. But getting back into it this time, I'm finding that balance of saying no at times. I can't be at every event. I have someone who now helps me, Mark Jacobson, who takes a lot of the events for me to represent our city. Because when people are having events, you know, it doesn't matter what it may be, United Way, different things that are going on, they need representation from the city of Madison. So we're finding that balance while being at many things as we can. But I'm not going to miss much of what my boys are doing.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, Paul, work-life balance is really important. It's one of the buzzwords we hear a lot about today. What do you do to relax and create that work-life balance for yourself?
You know, one of the things I love doing is accomplishment. You know, my personality needs to get things done, and then it needs to win, which works well. You know, so for Madison, you know, that what we transition that to is we do actionable things that make a difference for our citizens. But I do a lot of things. I still play racquetball. I run. I play basketball at times. I love doing yard work because it gives me time to reflect, and I can cut my grass, edge my grass, blow it, and weed eat it. It's 4 things: check, 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 check. You know, so I do those types of things to just in a crossword puzzle, just to kind of take it easy. And then because most of the time I'm on when you're out, and you got to find that balance of doing that. And then again, just spending time with those kids and being able to talk to them. You find that, and people can do it. Busy people do it all the time.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've learned a lot over the years. What would the current day Paul go back and say to the younger Paul? What kind of words of advice would you give yourself then?
Oh my gosh. learn more, go to class. No.
That's important.
Although the young Paul said, that's a really good party. No. I think in this case, it was the understanding that life is a journey and that you're not supposed to know everything right off the bat, that it's okay to come in and be moldable, that listening and paying attention and continuing the educational process in whatever you're doing is how you're going to get to where you want to be. Entrepreneurs too many times, and so many of the folks in this area right now, because they're analytical, they don't want to start until it's perfect. I mean, if we didn't start this show until it was perfect, we may never start the show. We may never
start, absolutely.
But 5, 6, 7 shows from now, when you're doing this, you're going to see a huge transition in what happens. And that's what happens with anybody in life or in business. And so you've got to start. Put the best thing you can in place, find the time to move forward, and then move forward. Mm-hmm. And I think as a young Paul, I would have just told him it's going to be okay, just keep learning.
Absolutely. Well, that's some very good advice. So what's some of your greatest accomplishments?
Having 3 successful young men who understand right from wrong and are going to be, they're more givers than takers, and they're going to be helpful in this community is probably my largest accomplishment. I love being able as a mayor to represent our city. Our city is a huge accomplishment in this overall Tennessee Valley. I don't think being mayor is the accomplishment. Putting a team of people in place and taking the I out of it and putting the we into it is something that I will always be proud of. There's things now that young children, and I was up in D.C. and I saw one of the kids that went to one of our schools, and just seeing those type of kids that came up, that saw quality within our city and now is representing us up in D.C. I think being able to do those types of accomplishments is something that I'm really proud of.
Super. Well, you've improved the quality of life for the people of Madison. What do you see next for yourself?
You know what? Here's one thing I will say. I love where I am right now because I think it's about as high as you can go within like city government overall, with where you can still make a difference, where you still have the ability to control results. Working with a city council, I can do that. I watch and then I love the fact that I don't have a D or an R that holds me back. There's too much of that right now. There's too many people that can't make decisions because that's not what the party wants, or I have to position myself here. We don't have to do that in city government right now. We can work together, and we do. And I think that is another accomplishment that I would say, is recognizing that you can't just do it yourself. You have to have others involved. And I'm really proud of what we've accomplished there in helping to set the direction, and then using our department heads as the subject matter experts, because I know nothing about building, but I know everything about the fact that somebody wants to come in and start a business, and we want to make it as easy as we possibly can for them. So go help in every way you can, and in turn that'll make a difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you like to leave with our audience? If you had to leave 3 words of wisdom or quotes, what would you like to share? 1,
I'm a lot smarter than I look, I promise.
That's good, I like that.
I have fun. I think when I coached baseball, one thing I told the kids first off, have fun. Give 100% effort 100% of the time, and then I always told them you got to practice on your own. If you don't go home and try swinging a bat or shooting a basketball on your own, you're only going to be as good as the hour that I had you. So I guess if I was going to tell them, it'd be no different from the 7 and 8-year-olds that we tried to coach. Do what you have a passion for. What God gifted us all with certain abilities, and you got to take it and run with it. And then in turn, give 100% effort all the time. Don't let somebody outwork you. And then lastly, continue to educate yourself and get better.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you, Mayor Finley, for sharing your experiences with us. We thank you guys for joining us in the studio audience tonight. Please join us next week for our next guest right here on The Miranda Show. Thanks for watching our show today, and make plans to join us next week for another riveting conversation with leaders and innovators right here on The Miranda Show.